The sun rose gently over Riverview, casting golden light across the calm waters of the harbor. Seagulls flew in circles above, their calls echoing softly as waves lapped against the wooden docks. The town was quiet and the air smelled faintly of salt and fresh fish. It was the kind of morning that made people pause and feel grateful for the small, peaceful moments in life. David, a retired Navy SEAL, stood on the edge of the pier, watching the water shimmer. He had lived in Riverview for many years, finding peace in the rhythm of the sea and the slow pace of small-town life. His life now was simple yet fulfilling. Each morning he would walk along the docks, checking his fishing nets and enjoying the quiet before the town came alive. His sharp eyes, trained from years of service, missed nothing. Even in peace, he stayed alert. On this morning, his daughter, Maya, walked down the pier carrying a small bucket. She was 12 years old, full of energy and curiosity. Her dark eyes sparkled as she looked at the crabs that scuttled across the wooden boards. Maya loved the harbor. She loved the smell of the ocean, the feel of sand between her toes and the sound of the waves hitting the shore. But more than anything, she loved spending time with her father. "Careful, Maya," David called softly, his voice calm but firm. "Don't drop your bucket. You don't want to lose your catch." Maya smiled and nodded. "I won't, Dad. Look. This one is really big." She lifted a crab carefully, its tiny legs moving in all directions. She giggled as it pinched at the air. David walked closer, crouching down to look at the crab. "That's a good one," he said, smiling. "You're learning fast. Soon you'll be able to catch crabs better than me." Maya laughed. She loved these mornings with her father. He taught her patience, focus, and respect for the sea. He never raised his voice even when something went wrong. She admired how calm he always remained. David had been a Navy SEAL, trained to face danger and uncertainty, yet with her, he was always gentle and kind. The harbor around them was still mostly empty, except for a few early fishermen and a couple of boats preparing to leave for the day. The soft sound of water against the docks made a soothing melody. Birds landed on the boats, searching for small fish or crumbs left behind by the fishermen. Maya took a deep breath, enjoying the fresh, salty air. She noticed a small group of jellyfish floating near the shore and pointed to them. "Look, Dad. They're so pretty. Their colors are like little rainbows." David nodded. "Yes, they are. But be careful. Even the pretty ones can sting." He smiled, glad to see her curiosity and wonder. He always encouraged her to explore the world, but also to respect it. Maya set her bucket down to watch the water. She leaned on the edge of the dock, her feet dangling above the waves. David stood behind her, his hands resting lightly on her shoulders. He felt a wave of pride. She was smart, brave, and kind.
He wanted to keep her safe always, though he knew that one day she would face challenges in life that he could not control. For now, though, it was just the two of them.
The harbor was peaceful. The wind carried a gentle coolness from the ocean. Everything seemed perfect. David felt a sense of calm he had not felt in years. After decades of danger and uncertainty in the Navy, these quiet mornings were a reward he cherished. Maya picked up a crab again, holding it carefully over the bucket. She laughed as it moved its legs quickly, trying to find a way out. "They're so funny," she said. David laughed with her, feeling the warmth of family and the simple joy of life. Little did they know their peaceful morning was about to be interrupted. Someone was approaching the harbor, and their laughter and calm would soon face an unexpected test. But for now the sun shone brightly, the waves danced, and father and daughter enjoyed their quiet, perfect morning by the sea. The morning in Riverview was still calm when the quiet was suddenly broken by the deep roar of motorcycles. The sound echoed across the harbor, startling the seagulls into frantic flight. Maya looked up from her bucket of crabs, her eyes widening. She had never heard engines so loud or so close. "Dad, what is that?" she asked, gripping her bucket tightly. Her small hands trembled slightly, and she instinctively moved closer to her father. David's sharp eyes immediately spotted a group of bikers approaching. They were a mix of older and younger men, dressed in leather jackets and boots. Their motorcycles gleamed in the sunlight as they rolled onto the pier, laughing loudly and revving their engines. The sound made the wooden planks beneath them vibrate slightly. David stepped closer to Maya, his posture calm but alert. He had faced danger many times before, but he knew it was important not to panic in front of her. "Stay close to me," he said in a low, steady voice. "We'll see what they want." Maya nodded, trusting her father completely. She loved the harbor and the mornings they shared, But now the peaceful place felt different. The laughter of the bikers was loud, brash, and invasive. It did not belong in the quiet town. One of the bikers, taller than the others and wearing dark sunglasses, stepped off his motorcycle. He looked at Maya with a smirk. "Hey, little girl," he said in a loud voice. "What are you doing here all alone?" Maya stepped back instinctively, keeping her bucket close. "I'm not alone. My father is here," she said bravely, though her voice trembled slightly. The biker laughed, not noticing David standing behind her. "Oh, really? And where is your father, little girl? I don't see anyone who looks very big or scary." David took a slow step forward, keeping his expression calm. He did not yell or act aggressive. His presence alone, calm and controlled, began to change the mood. Maya could feel it. Her father had always been strong, but now she could sense something more, an invisible shield of confidence surrounding him. The other bikers dismounted their motorcycles, forming a loose circle around Maya and David. Their laughter and joking continued, but a few of them glanced at David, sensing something unusual about him. He moved deliberately, not in anger, but with quiet authority. Every motion was smooth and controlled, the kind of movement that comes from years of discipline. Maya stayed close to her father. She admired his calmness. He did not need to shout or threaten them. His presence was enough to make her feel safer. The bikers, however, had no idea who they were dealing with. The tall biker leaned toward Maya again, his smirk not fading. "What's your name, little girl?" he asked. "Maya," she said quietly but firmly. "Well, Maya, you shouldn't be here alone," the biker said, still smirking. "This place is for big people like us. You don't belong here." David's voice broke the tension, steady and controlled. "I said leave her alone," he said. "Now." The biker's smirk faltered slightly. He glanced at his friends, who were still unsure. They had expected this to be an easy moment of intimidation, but something about David made them hesitate. His calm strength and confidence were unlike anything they had seen in this quiet harbor town. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She knew her father could handle any situation. She trusted him completely. She also noticed the subtle way he shifted his weight, his eyes scanning every movement of the bikers. David was ready for anything, though he hoped it would not be necessary. The harbor, once peaceful and quiet, now carried the tension of the unexpected visitors. Waves lapped against the pier, birds circled above nervously, and the engines of the motorcycles idled with a low growl. The standoff continued, each side unsure of what would happen next. David did not rush. He remained calm, steady, and protective. Maya clutched his hand, feeling the safety only a father could give. She realized that the peaceful mornings they shared were precious, and she hoped this moment of tension would end quickly, without anyone being hurt. At that moment, the balance of power was clear. It was not about size, loudness, or numbers. It was about confidence, awareness, and quiet strength. And David had all of that. The roar of the motorcycles faded slightly as the bikers circled Maya and her father, their laughter replaced by quiet murmurs. Maya gripped her bucket tightly, her small hands trembling. The peaceful morning she had enjoyed moments ago now felt tense and strange. She could sense the bikers were up to no good, but she also knew her father was watching every movement carefully. David stood slightly in front of Maya, his eyes scanning each biker. He did not raise his voice or act hastily, but his posture and expression carried a quiet warning. Years of Navy SEAL training had taught him to remain calm under pressure. He knew that sometimes the presence of control was more powerful than any words or actions. One of the bikers, the tall man with sunglasses, leaned closer toward Maya, his voice loud and teasing. "What are you doing here all by yourself? This is not a place for kids." Maya's voice wavered, but she spoke as firmly as she could. "I'm not alone. My father is here." The biker laughed again, clearly not noticing David. "Oh, really? Where is he? He doesn't look very big to me. Are you sure he can handle us?" David's expression did not change, but a subtle shift in his posture made the bikers pause. His shoulders straightened, his stance widened slightly, and his calm but focused gaze met theirs. It was not a threat. It was simply awareness and control. But to someone who did not know him, it sent a clear signal. He was not someone to underestimate. Maya stayed close to her father, her small hand brushing his leg for comfort. She watched the bikers with wide eyes. She had always felt safe with her father, but this was different. She realized that the harbor, The calm morning and even the laughter of seagulls could feel fragile when strangers arrived with bad intentions. The tall biker stepped forward, clearly testing the situation. "Come on, kid," he said, smirking at Maya. "We don't want trouble, but this place isn't for little girls." David did not speak immediately. He let the biker make the first move, allowing him to see the biker's true intentions. He had learned long ago that patience often gave the best advantage. His mind ran through the situation carefully, assessing the number of bikers, their size, and their confidence. He noticed their hesitation as they glanced at each other. Something about him made them uneasy. David finally spoke, his voice calm, deep, and steady. "I said leave my daughter alone now." The biker froze for a moment. He laughed nervously, thinking it was an empty warning. "Or what?" he challenged. David did not raise his voice or make sudden movements. He simply took a small step closer. His body language, calm but controlled, told the bikers everything they needed to know. This man had experience. He knew how to handle dangerous situations without losing control. Maya could feel the tension between her father and the bikers. It was like the air itself had changed. She had never seen her father act like this before, and yet she trusted him completely. She could feel his strength not in words, but in the quiet confidence that radiated from him. The other bikers began to glance at the tall man, unsure of what to do. Their laughter had faded, replaced by quiet uncertainty. They realized that this was not a simple standoff. The man in front of them was alert, skilled, and prepared. David kept his eyes on the bikers while keeping a protective hand near Maya's shoulder. He did not threaten or act aggressively. He simply remained calm and in control. The message was clear. Anyone who tried to harm Maya would face consequences. Maya squeezed his hand, grateful for his presence. She felt safe even though the situation was frightening. She realized something important. Strength was not always about size or numbers. Sometimes strength was about calmness, awareness, and courage. The bikers hesitated, unsure how to respond. The balance had shifted. They had come to intimidate, but now they were uncertain. David's calm authority and unwavering gaze reminded them that appearances could be deceiving. The harbor was quiet once more, but the tension remained. The waves lapped softly against the docks and the seagulls circled nervously overhead. Maya looked up at her father, understanding that the peaceful morning was over, but she trusted him completely to keep her safe. The bikers had stopped circling, their engines humming quietly, but the tension in the air was still thick. Maya clutched her bucket tightly, standing close to her father. She could feel his calm energy surrounding her, like an invisible shield. David's sharp eyes scanned each biker carefully, noticing small movements and subtle signs of hesitation. "Stay calm, Maya," he whispered gently, his voice steady. "Just stay close to me." Maya nodded. She had always trusted her father, but seeing him this serious made her understand that something was very different from a normal day at the harbor. The bikers had clearly expected to scare her, but now they were unsure. David's calmness was more powerful than any shout or show of anger. The tall biker removed his sunglasses and looked directly at David. "So, you're the dad," he said, smirking. "I didn't think much of you at first. You look like a quiet fisherman." David didn't respond with words. Instead, he took a slow, deliberate step closer, standing tall and steady. His presence alone commanded attention. Every motion he made was smooth, controlled, and confident. It was the kind of movement that suggested years of training and experience. The other bikers exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected an easy moment to intimidate a child, but now they realized they might be in over their heads. Maya squeezed her father's hand. She felt safe, but she also noticed how serious he looked. His eyes were calm, but they carried a sharp focus. She had seen him fish, fix nets, and repair boats calmly, but this was different. This was alertness that could handle real danger. The tall biker took a step forward, but his smirk had faded slightly. "Come on," he said. "We were just having some fun. No need to get so serious." David's voice broke the tension without anger. "I said leave her alone. Now." His words were firm but calm, carrying an authority that made the bikers hesitate. The harbor seemed to hold its breath. The waves lapped softly against the pier, birds circled nervously above, and even the sunlight seemed to pause. The bikers were starting to understand that this was not an ordinary man. There was something in his stance, in the way he measured them, that made them unsure. One of the younger bikers shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his friends. He whispered something, but the others ignored him. The tall biker stepped back slightly, his confidence faltering. He had not expected the quiet, calm presence of this man to feel so commanding. David moved slowly, never rushing, but subtly positioning himself between Maya and the bikers. He did not make any aggressive gestures. Every step was controlled and measured, signaling that he was aware of everything but did not need to act recklessly. Maya felt a mixture of fear and relief. She was afraid of the bikers, but seeing her father so composed made her feel protected. She realized that courage was not always loud. Sometimes courage was quiet, steady, and certain. The bikers looked at each other again, unsure what to do. They had expected an easy target, but now they sensed that things were different. David's calmness was stronger than their loud engines, and his presence filled the space with an authority they could not ignore. David's eyes never left the tall biker. He spoke again, just a little louder, his tone firm but controlled. "This is your warning. Leave now or you will regret it." The words were simple, but their effect was powerful. The bikers hesitated. No one wanted to make the first mistake. They were beginning to realize that the quiet man in front of them was not just a fisherman. There was strength and skill in him, something that could not be judged by appearance alone. Maya clutched her bucket and whispered, "Dad, what will they do?" David smiled briefly, reassuring her. "They'll leave. They always do when they see the truth. Stay calm." The bikers revved their engines nervously, unsure if they should test him. The balance had shifted completely. What had started as a threatening arrival had turned into a moment of hesitation. And in that hesitation, David's quiet control ruled the situation without violence or fear. For now, the harbor held its peace, though tension still lingered in the air. Maya realized that her father's strength was more than muscles. It was patience, control, and courage all combined, and she knew that no matter what happened next, he would protect her. The tension on the pier had grown thick, yet David remained calm, his eyes steady and focused. Maya stood close to him, holding his hand tightly, but she no longer felt the panic she had first felt when the bikers arrived. Her father's quiet confidence gave her courage. She realized that his strength was not just in his past as a Navy SEAL, but in his ability to stay calm under pressure and think clearly. The tall biker, who had been smirking moments ago, now stepped back slightly. He looked at David with uncertainty in his eyes. You're not just a fisherman, are you?" he said, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. David's expression remained calm and serious. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he let his presence speak for him. Every slight movement, every careful glance conveyed experience and control. The other bikers noticed it too. Their confident faces showed doubt now. They had come to intimidate. But something about this man made them hesitate. Maya watched quietly, realizing that her father didn't need to fight or shout to take control. The way he held himself, steady and aware, made the bikers think twice. She felt proud of him, not just because he was strong, but because he was wise and controlled. The tall biker tried to regain his confidence. "Come on, we didn't mean any real trouble," he said, his voice forced and a little shaky. "We were just joking around. No need to get so serious." David didn't flinch or react angrily. He spoke slowly, his voice firm but calm. "Respect is earned. You are here to harass a child. That shows no respect. Leave now and learn a lesson from this moment." The words hung in the air. The bikers exchanged nervous glances. They could sense that David was not just another man. His calm authority suggested someone with experience and skill far beyond what they expected. The energy of the pier had shifted. What had started as a challenge was now a test of awareness and judgment. One of the younger bikers muttered something under his breath, clearly realizing they had misjudged the situation. Another biker, larger and taller, started to feel uncomfortable. They had expected an easy intimidation, but now the situation felt tense, and for the first time, the bikers were unsure of what to do. David continued to speak calmly, keeping his eyes on the tall biker. "Your choices now will show who you really are. Walk away and show respect, or stay and face consequences you are not prepared for." Maya squeezed her father's hand again. She felt safe and reassured by his calm control. She noticed the subtle way he adjusted his stance, moving slightly closer to her without being aggressive. It was a careful balance, signaling that he was ready but not threatening unless necessary. The bikers hesitated, their engines quiet now. The confident, loud attitude they had carried earlier was gone. They were beginning to understand that they had underestimated the quiet man who had simply been watching them. David's calmness and clarity had shifted the power completely. Finally, the tall biker took a deep breath and stepped back. All right, he said, his tone different now, filled with caution. We'll go. No trouble. The other bikers murmured in agreement, mounting their motorcycles. Their laughter and loud voices were gone, replaced with a nervous energy as they started to move away from the pier. David watched carefully, making sure they left without causing more trouble. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She looked up at her father and smiled. You were amazing, she whispered. You didn't even have to fight. David smiled gently and ruffled her hair. Sometimes, Maya, respect is earned without a single punch, he said. It is about courage, awareness, and control. Remember that. The harbor slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm. Waves lapped against the pier, seagulls returned to their circles above, and the sunlight reflected softly on the water. For a moment it felt as if nothing had disturbed the calm morning. Maya held her bucket tightly but no longer feared. She realized she had witnessed something important. Bravery was not always loud. Sometimes it was quiet, steady, and filled with wisdom. Her father had shown her that true strength came from control, patience, and respect. David glanced at the harbor, making sure everything was clear. The bikers had left and the peaceful morning was restored. He knelt down to Maya, smiling at her. Let's get back to our fishing, he said. The morning is still ours, Maya nodded happily. The lesson she had learned today was more valuable than any crab or fish she could catch. She would never forget it, and as they walked back toward their boat, the harbor felt safe, calm, and filled with promise once again. The bikers hesitated near the edge of the pier, their motorcycles idling quietly. The confidence they had carried when they arrived was gone, replaced by uncertainty. David stood calmly in front of Maya, his posture relaxed yet alert, his eyes carefully watching every movement. He did not need to act aggressively. His presence alone spoke volumes. Maya felt a sense of relief wash over her. She still clutched her bucket, but her fear had diminished. Her father's calm strength had changed the situation completely. She realized that courage could be quiet and still make a powerful difference. The tall biker, who had been the most aggressive, looked back at his friends nervously. Maybe we should just leave, he said in a low voice. His smirk from earlier was gone. The others nodded, unsure. The presence of David had made them rethink their plan. What had seemed like an easy intimidation now felt risky and uncomfortable. David took a slow step forward, subtly placing himself closer to Maya without appearing threatening. His movements were controlled, precise, and deliberate, demonstrating confidence and awareness. He did not raise his voice, but the quiet power in his stance was unmistakable. One of the younger bikers tried to speak up. We were just joking. We didn't mean any harm, he said, glancing nervously at David. David's eyes softened slightly as he looked at the young man. Sometimes joking can scare someone, he said calmly. It is important to think about how your actions affect others. Understanding that is part of respect. The words seemed to surprise the bikers. They were not used to someone confronting them with calm logic instead of anger or shouting. They had expected fear, but what they received was awareness and composure. Slowly, they began to see that their behavior had consequences they had not considered. Maya stayed close to her father, feeling a mix of admiration and relief. She had always known he was strong, but now she understood the depth of his skills. He could control situations without raising his voice or using force. His intelligence and discipline had turned the situation in their favor. The tall biker finally took a deep breath. All right, we'll go, he said, his tone much quieter than before. We don't want any trouble. David did not smile or show relief just yet. He kept his eyes on the bikers until they fully started to leave, making sure there was no chance they would turn back or attempt to intimidate them again. Slowly, one by one, the motorcycles roared to life and began to roll away from the pier. The sound faded into the distance, leaving the harbor quiet once more. Maya looked up at her father, her eyes shining. Dad, you didn't even have to fight them, she whispered. You just made them leave. David knelt down beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. That's right, Maya, he said gently. Sometimes being calm, aware, and confident is stronger than any fight. You can protect yourself and others with your mind and presence, not just your strength. Maya smiled, feeling proud and inspired. She had learned an important lesson that went beyond this morning or the harbor. It was about courage, respect, and intelligence. Her father had shown her that the most powerful kind of strength was quiet and controlled. The sun climbed higher, warming the wooden boards of the pier. The waves lapped softly against the dock, and seagulls returned to their usual circles overhead. Life seemed to return to its normal rhythm, peaceful and calm. David and Maya walked back toward their small fishing boat. Maya carried her bucket proudly, still filled with crabs. "Let's go home," David said. "We can clean the catch and have breakfast. The morning is ours again." As they walked, David glanced at the harbor. Everything was calm, but he remained alert. Experience had taught him to never fully relax until he was certain the danger had passed. Yet he also allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. Today, his calm authority had turned a potentially dangerous situation into a lesson for others, and no one had been hurt. Maya skipped beside him, feeling safe and happy. She thought about the bikers and how quickly they had changed once her father's calm confidence became clear. She understood now that courage and wisdom often worked together, and for her, the harbor was no longer just a place for fishing. It was a place where she had learned the true meaning of bravery, protection, and respect. The morning continued peacefully, filled with the soft sounds of the sea and the gentle warmth of the sun. Maya knew that with her father by her side, she could face any challenge with confidence and calm, just as he had shown her. The harbor slowly returned to its usual calm. The roar of the motorcycles had faded, leaving only the gentle sounds of the waves lapping against the wooden pier. Seagulls circled overhead, calling softly to one another. Maya felt the tension of the morning slowly release as she walked beside her father, clutching her bucket. David's eyes scanned the pier one last time, ensuring the bikers were gone and that the area was safe. Even though the danger had passed, he remained alert. Years of training had taught him that situations could change quickly, but for now the harbor was peaceful once more. Maya looked up at him with admiration. "Dad," she said, her voice quiet but full of wonder, "you were amazing. I didn't think you could make them leave without even raising your voice." David smiled gently. "It's not always about being loud or strong, Maya. Sometimes calmness and confidence are the most powerful tools we have. People respond to control and awareness more than fear." Maya nodded, taking in her father's words. She thought about how the bikers had started with laughter and confidence, only to be unsure the moment they faced his quiet authority. She realized that bravery was not only about strength or size. True courage could be calm, patient, and precise. As they walked back to their small fishing boat, Maya looked out at the sparkling water. The morning sun reflected on the waves, making them glimmer like tiny diamonds. It felt like nothing had happened at all, but she knew better. She had learned a lesson she would never forget. David began checking the nets and lines on the boat, making sure everything was in order for the day. Maya helped him carefully, setting down her bucket and examining the small crabs she had collected. "We can clean them and have breakfast together," David said, his voice calm and warm. Maya smiled. The idea of working alongside her father in such a peaceful setting made her happy. She felt safe and proud, knowing that her father's presence had protected her. She also felt a new understanding of what it meant to be strong. Strength was not only physical, it was also mental, emotional, and wise. As they worked together, David shared more advice quietly. "Maya," he said, "people will sometimes test you or try to make you afraid. What you do in those moments shows who you are. Stay calm, pay attention, and act with respect. That will guide you better than anger or fear ever could." Maya listened carefully. She could feel the importance of his words, not just for today, but for every day of her life. She realized that the events of the morning were more than just an interruption of a peaceful day. They were a lesson in courage, respect, and the value of calm authority. The harbor grew brighter as the sun climbed higher. Boats bobbed gently on the water, and fishermen began to prepare their equipment for the day. Life in Riverview continued around them, peaceful and steady, as if the morning's tension had been nothing more than a passing shadow. Maya glanced at her father again, feeling gratitude swell in her chest. "I want to be brave like you, Dad," she said softly. David knelt beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You already are, Maya," he replied. "Bravery is not just about fighting or protecting others. It's about knowing yourself, staying calm in difficult situations, and helping others when you can. You've shown that today just by being careful and trusting me." Maya smiled, feeling both proud and inspired. The events of the morning had changed the way she thought about strength. It was not about showing off or being loud. True strength was quiet, steady, and filled with awareness. As they finished cleaning the crabs and preparing for breakfast, Maya realized that the harbor was once again her safe place. The water, the waves, and the soft calls of the seagulls reminded her that peace could always return, even after moments of tension. She looked at her father with love and trust, knowing that as long as he was near, she could face any challenge with confidence. The morning continued peacefully, filled with warmth, light, and the gentle rhythm of the sea. Maya held her bucket and watched the waves sparkle, understanding that bravery, calmness, and respect were lessons she would carry with her forever. The harbor had returned to its usual calm. The morning sun shone brightly, reflecting on the gentle waves. The tension from earlier seemed like a distant memory, but Maya remembered it clearly. She walked beside her father, holding her bucket of crabs, feeling safe and proud. Today had been a morning full of lessons, courage, and understanding. David carefully guided the small boat back toward the shore, checking the nets and making sure everything was in order. Maya helped him, her small hands moving carefully but confidently. She felt stronger after the morning's events. She understood now that bravery could be quiet and strength could be calm. "Dad," she said as they worked, "I think I understand what you mean about respect and courage. It's not about being loud or scary. It's about knowing what to do and staying calm." David smiled at her, his eyes full of warmth. "Exactly, Maya. True courage comes from thinking clearly, staying aware, and acting with care. Sometimes that is more powerful than any fight. You showed courage, too, by staying calm and trusting me." Maya nodded, proud of herself and grateful for her father. She had faced a frightening situation and learned how strength, wisdom, and calmness could guide people. The harbor, once a place of peace, had been a place of tension and testing, but it had also been a place of learning. As they finished preparing the boat and checked their small nets, Maya looked around at the sparkling water. The seagulls had returned, flying in gentle circles overhead. Boats rocked softly in the water, and fishermen were preparing for their day. Everything seemed peaceful again, as if the morning's events had been a lesson from the universe. David glanced at Maya, smiling gently. "Now let's have breakfast together," he said. "We earned it after all the work." Maya grinned and followed him to the small table near the pier. She set her bucket carefully on the ground and watched her father arrange their simple meal. The smell of fresh fish, eggs, and bread filled the air. It was comforting, warm, and peaceful. While they ate, David spoke quietly, sharing small stories from his Navy SEAL days. He spoke about courage, patience, and the importance of awareness. Maya listened carefully, absorbing every word. She realized that courage wasn't just about fighting or danger. It was about preparation, control, and knowing how to act wisely in every situation. After breakfast, Maya and her father walked along the pier one last time, enjoying the calm of the harbor. The sunlight made the waves sparkle, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of the ocean. Maya felt happy and safe, knowing that her father's strength was always with her. "Dad," she said, looking at him, "I think I understand now. Bravery is not just being strong. It's staying calm, thinking carefully, and helping others." David nodded, pleased with her understanding. "That's right, Maya. And remember, it is always better to prevent trouble with wisdom than to face it with force." Today we both learned that lesson. Maya smiled, feeling proud. She had learned more than she expected from a simple morning at the harbor. She had learned courage, calmness, respect, and the importance of trust. Her father had shown her that true strength was quiet but powerful, and that love and protection could be shown without anger or aggression. As the day continued, the town of Riverview returned to its normal rhythm. Boats sailed on the water, fishermen called to each other, and seagulls drifted lazily above. The harbor had regained its peaceful rhythm, and Maya felt the calm settle in her heart. She glanced at her father and said softly, "Thank you for keeping me safe, Dad. I feel brave now, because you showed me how." David knelt down beside her and smiled. "You were brave, Maya. Remember that courage is always within you. Trust yourself and you can face anything. Today was a lesson, but your strength will grow every day." Maya hugged him tightly, feeling safe, loved, and inspired. The harbor remained calm and beautiful, a perfect reflection of the morning's lessons. For Maya, the peaceful waves and bright sunlight were a reminder that bravery, Calmness and respect always led to safety and happiness. The day continued, filled with laughter, learning, and love. Maya knew that no matter what challenges might come in the future, she had the guidance, courage, and calm strength of her father to guide her. The harbor, the sea, and the sunlight seemed to celebrate the return of peace, and Maya walked beside her father with confidence, happiness, and a sense of true courage.